Have you ever wondered why you can't use a cell phone when you pump gas? Or why people wear long sleeve shirts when it's hot out? Or why you have to wear a hard hat at a specific site that doesn't seem like it has anything dangerous on it? Well, these and many more safety procedures are hazard assessments and controls that have been carefully and methodically developed. And we're going to talk today with some of our EH&S staff who can tell you what goes into developing those procedures and methodologies and why you should take them seriously. So welcome, everybody. This is the 312 Podcast, the HRP Podcast. Today we're talking about hazard identification and controls. I am joined today by several of our key EH&S staff here in the Greenville office. Folks, would you like to introduce yourself, starting with Ms. Jackie Baxley here?
Jackie Baxley, practice leader for Environmental Health and Safety and Sustainability Practice.
Jessica Eubanks, corporate health and safety officer, sitting at the Greenville, South Carolina office.
And I am Justin Evans. I am a project manager down here in the Greenville office, and I am an EHS department project manager.
So designing safety procedures is part of what HRP does. How does HRP go about designing those safety procedures? Now, it's a pretty broad question, so kind of take that in whatever direction makes sense for you.
So I would say it all just starts with an individual assessment, and kind of high level. You assess, what's the regulatory obligations. You assess what are the site factors or the site conditions or the practices and procedures that are currently going on. And then you identify what are the specific hazards or concerns associated with those tasks or job sites or whatever it is that you're assessing. And once you've kind of completed that evaluation and assessment, then the key is that you have to tailor the controls to that site, to that regulatory obligation, to those specific hazards. So you're not going to assign a hard hat when the hazard is a splash hazard. You're going to be tailoring all of those controls to whatever it is you identify.
Couldn't have said it any better, Jackie.
So does that process always look the same?
It doesn't. Depending on the regulatory requirements of whatever program you may fall into with whatever you're developing this procedure for, there may be very specific requirements and things you have to do. My mind immediately goes to the process safety management standard, and for facilities that fall into that regulatory program, they have to conduct a process hazard analysis, which is all about hazard identification and control.
Yeah, and just to talk about the nuances there, I mean, Justin, y'all have had PHAs that have lasted a whole week.
5 days.
Yeah, just assessing one process. But if the particular issue that we're looking at is just maybe what PPE do I need for that task, I mean, that can be done in 5 minutes with a checklist. So it is a very scalable process.
Sure, and it so much depends on how much knowledge do you have at your disposal at the time you're developing this procedure. If you're having access to someone who's very intimately familiar with the task that you're developing the procedure for, that's very different than this is a new process or something that no one's ever done before, and you're trying to identify hazards from scratch.
What are the steps involved in the process of developing these?
So regardless, I think it's going to be about teamwork as well. I think Justin and Jackie both has covered it. It's, at the end of the day, it's all about the jobs and the processes that are being done. And all the information you got to collect, kind of going back to what Jackie said of assessing the area and the processes, doing like a full investigation as well. And what are those items that employees can be exposed to prevent or that does cause injuries.
To really highlight what we're talking about is teamwork, and you can't do hazard assessment in a vacuum. You can't have just HRP come in and one person from HRP walk around and do the hazard assessment by themselves. We have to work collaboratively with the people engaged in those tasks. As Justin said, with the people knowledgeable on that process. Garbage in is garbage out, right? So if you're not really engaging those people that work day in and day out in those environments, you're not holistically really identifying properly, even categorizing the operations and then identifying the proper controls.
And so what does this look like internally and what does it look like externally?
It's really not different internally or externally. I mean, HRP, we're an employer. We have to comply with OSHA just like our clients do. We were joking earlier, the difference is whether our CFO is happy about it or not happy about it. He's happy if we're charging people for it. He's less happy when it's overhead.
Speaking for external, which is primarily the business that I'm in, A lot of the clients that we have are involved with highly hazardous chemicals and having to very carefully perform steps to keep themselves safe. Whereas unless we're on their site watching or performing that task with them, that's not so much something we see internally. So there's a lot more liability and a lot more focus that has to go into when we're developing a procedure for a client that's around these acutely hazardous chemicals versus us sitting in an office somewhere writing a procedure for something fairly mundane.
Yeah, I guess, and that reminds me, Jessica just updated our emergency action plan here in HRP.
And how long has it been since we've done that? It's great to have a corporate health and safety
Do not put me on the spot with that one.
Please don't answer that.
No comment.
And it's funny because, internally, we're sitting in an office right now. We don't have a lot of hazards in this office. We don't have chemical storage. We don't have equipment. And so our emergency actions are kind of geared around our offices and our locations. But who knows where our team members are today? I mean, we know where our team members are today, but who knows the diversity of hazards they're exposed to. So we might have one person in a vacant lot doing a phase 1 assessment. We might have one person in a chemical manufacturing facility doing a compliance audit. We might have somebody on a street in New York doing a drilling job. And so it's very predictable what our hazards are in our offices, but looking at where our employees could be any given day. Jessica, as corporate health and safety officer, has really highlighted and augmented and improved upon our own hazard recognition and controls with our safe work permits that we do before we go to any job site, or our health and safety specific site plans as well.
So I was thinking internally, and it goes back to, I agree with Jackie as far as, there's hardly any hazards in the office. But I would lean more towards, coming from the office, I would say that is your main help support for the employees that are going out in the field. And, you from the office, you can have more engagement and get that motivation from the office and help get, like Justin was talking about, having that knowledge getting that knowledge out to the people that are working out there in the field. And going back to the question as far as what Jackie was saying, general industry versus the consulting business, usually with general industry, safety kind of falls back on one. It's not supposed to. Safety is everybody's responsibility, but that company looks at you for taking over everything. But in consulting, everybody's involved with it because everybody's an expert in different topics.
So we talked about it a bit already, but can you each tell me some of the roles that you fulfill relative to these issues?
So from the health and safety standpoint, I want to help out in any which way that I can, and also assist in placing those engineer or admin controls in place, PPE, helping conducting with the hazard assessment, also pushing out the guidelines, implement training as well.
One of the primary services that I and my department provide out of the Greenville office is called the process hazard analysis, which is for these clients who are using bulk highly hazardous chemicals. And we usually lead in by saying it's a root cause analysis for an event that hasn't happened yet. So the whole goal is to look through an entire chemical process, identify what hazards are going to be there to the operator as well as the people that are around them. Can we quantify the risk that they're being exposed to by performing procedures in the vicinity of these processes? And can we categorize that risk as too high, or are we comfortable with the level of risk that they're going to be exposed to now? And those are all things we have to take into account when we're developing those written procedures to tell them how to do these tasks and these activities.
And I also want to say that I love motivating employees, people to do the right thing. It helps with interaction and get them more knowledgeable and act more safely doing their job. And then also, communicate. I was once told that over communication isn't too much, and that is definitely true. And then also, I highly encourage everybody to get and give constructive feedback because you can't fix that you don't know.
Yeah, so, Jessica's role at the company is very inward facing to make sure our own employees are healthy and safe, which also takes into account our stakeholders. We want our employees to be safe at our clients' job sites. So Jessica's role and her interaction with hazard recognition and controls is very inward looking. Justin is one of our key team members, and his role is to help clients while also ensuring his own health and safety. And my role, I would say, maybe kind of spans a little bit of both. I look both inward, internally and externally. And in one area that I work in a lot with clients is on management systems. And any organization out there that is looking to build a health and safety management system, whether they're using ISO 45001 or some internal standard, you can't have a management system without identifying your hazards and then controlling those that have those elevated risk. And Justin was kind of speaking to that you have to have a way of quantifying what is too high of a risk and what is not. We can't wrap ourselves in bubble wrap and never leave the house. And so what risk are manageable risk and risk we're okay with, and what risk are not. So to lead in with what you mentioned at the very start, like why can't you use a cell phone at a gas pump? So if we were to do a critique of that process of pumping gas, and if we were to look at likelihood, maybe the likelihood of that cell phone causing a spark is low, but the severity of if that cell phone creates a spark is you're a toasty marshmallow at that point. And so you look at things like likelihood, you look at risk, you look at likelihood, severity, frequency of the task, and different people look at other things like maybe the degree of controls that they already have in place, and all of that gives you some type of numeric value of what you consider is too much risk versus what you consider is a manageable risk.
So how is what we do at HRP aligned with these procedures, and how does that align with the goals that we have for HRP in general?
Well, I would say it's a part of my daily life. I'd say maybe 25% of what I do on an average work week is developing safety procedures or analyzing tasks or activities that are already being conducted or will be conducted around highly hazardous chemicals. So I'd say it's a garden variety day for me if I'm helping develop a procedure, review a procedure, critique a procedure, or make recommendations to drive down risks from hazards.
Yeah, and so if we're looking at our goals, I mean, Justin's goal is to ensure the health and safety of our clients. And
that our clients don't end up on the news for having some sort of chemical release incident.
Exactly. And I think one of the values that Justin can bring, which, by the way, anybody out there that needs a PHA, I don't think there's anybody better than Justin to do a PHA. He's kind of a rock star in the PHA world, for the record. But what having a consultant can do, instead of doing a hazard assessment yourself, bringing in a consultant or bringing in any outside body, whether it's a professional at a sister facility, is sometimes it's that other set of eyes that can really help identify a hazard that you might have overlooked. And, Justin has done PHAs at so many different facilities that have so many different processes that even use different chemicals that, his goal is to keep our clients safe and to prevent those chemical releases. And he can say, all right, this might not have happened at your facility, but we worked with this customer over here and it did happen at their facility. So just because it hasn't happened here doesn't mean it can't happen. And so we can kind of bring in that perspective sometimes of what we've seen out at other facilities. Sometimes that relates to best practices. Sometimes that relates to cautionary tales.
And the very fact that our clients bring us in to help do this sort of thing speaks to the high hazard nature of the tasks and the activities and the procedures that are being developed.
So, of course, from the health and safety perspective, we want to see no lost time accidents. We don't want to see any type of major incidents, whether if it's, with our employees or at the clients. Health and safety is a part of everyone's everyday lives. We use that every single day to perform the jobs. And so we can't, have a business where our business can't grow if we have employees getting hurt.
I will say, Jessica's been doing a great job of highlighting our awareness and understanding and our goal of no lost time incidents, our goal of nobody getting hurt by really highlighting near misses or observations of unsafe behaviors or unsafe conditions, because everything that we're talking about today is cyclical. It's not a hazard assessment is not a one-time thing. A hazard assessment is always occurring. And when you have reported unsafe conditions, unsafe behaviors, near misses, that allows you to go back to your hazard assessment. And we're like, well, we never identified a potential hazard was getting attacked by a goose at a job site, which was one of our near misses. And so
I've seen that happen, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have seen that happen. I was in a company vehicle. We were headed over down the site, and the goose just squared up with the truck and was ready to, take us out if we hadn't gotten out of there fast.
As a standard, are angry creatures.
Oh, yeah.
Geese are mean, gnarly creatures, and they poop everywhere. So there's a hazard of where you walk as well as a hazard of making sure that you're away from their nest. But again, the key here is that a hazard assessment is continuous. And if you have a solid process for reporting near misses, reporting unsafe acts, reporting unsafe behaviors, reporting those what could have gone wrong situations, that allows you to improve your understanding of hazards and maybe improve your controls as well.
The near misses, unsafe conditions, the whole program would definitely help with preventing those injuries. It's one safety metric that we use that exposes that.
Yeah, and I would say most health and safety professionals would say they love to see a lot of near-miss reports.
Yes, can't go wrong with it.
Near-miss reports
means you catch it before it's an event.
Exactly.
Yes.
It is that leading indicator. If the only thing you're tracking are actual incidents, then that's a lagging indicator, and it's too late to protect somebody. So those near misses, those unsafe behaviors, those unsafe acts, if you to use the whole Seinfeld, it's not just taking the reservation, it's holding the reservation. It's not just taking that unsafe observation near miss, it's actually acting on it. It's doing something with it. What can we do to prevent that from occurring again, or the next time it occurs, it being worse?
So what goes into those?
All right, so near misses, unsafe conditions, and unsafe behaviors is all a part of our READY reporting system. Report it, don't ignore it. And what all information that goes into that is the details of like what was the near miss, what was the unsafe condition, whatever it was, or whatever potentially is something that didn't happen that could have happened to injure somebody. And then also along with that, did you do something about it? Did you fix it, or did you leave it open for somebody else to handle? What actions actually went into place, or what could go in place to prevent injuries?
And then I think we do a really good job of communicating those. That's something that Jessica has implemented recently in our weekly operations meetings, where the notes go out to everybody in the company. She identifies what the READYs are, because as she was saying earlier, communication. When you're doing hazard assessments and controls, the employees need to know what hazards they're exposed to so they can have that awareness, so they then know why those controls are important. So then hopefully they'll buy into those controls. By our system that we use, by her weekly communications of, hey, these are the things these are the near misses that happened in the last week. People can have that heightened level of awareness and ensure their protection.
So we talked about the assessment piece. We talked about continuously assessing. So how do you take that and tailor it to controls?
So we're all pointing fingers at each other, like who wants to talk about the hierarchy of controls? And any EH&S professional out there is going to be very familiar with the hierarchy of controls. But just to put them out there for folks that might not be as familiar, the best control is elimination. If you can eliminate the hazard, it's gone. You're done. That's not always feasible. Justin's been talking a lot about highly hazardous chemicals. Before we start somebody down the route of controlling those highly hazardous chemicals, there's always a bit of is there any other chemical that we can use? And sometimes what's crazy is these highly hazardous chemicals that we're controlling are the safer ones in some cases. Maybe they're more environmentally protective, but there's more health and safety issues. But anyway, elimination is the best form of control. Again, it's not always feasible. So if elimination is not an option, then the next part is substitution. And that is, can we substitute maybe a less hazardous chemical for a higher hazardous chemical? Can we substitute a different a piece of equipment that maybe is less hazardous? So elimination followed by substitution, followed by engineering controls. And what an engineering control is it typically provides some type of control to remove the human from the hazard. And so examples of engineering controls would be a machine guard, a ventilation system that is going to route all those fumes away from the human. And so the engineering controls, if they're designed appropriately and they're maintained and they're operated, is your third hierarchy in the controls. The next control is administrative. And administrative typically requires training, awareness, written procedures, could be signs and postings. It requires a degree of awareness and understanding for those to actually work. So again, the posting the sign at the gas station, don't use your cell phone, that's an administrative control. It requires somebody to read that sign and to follow that sign. So that's not really effective. So that's the fourth. But if you have good training programs in place, good written procedures, good accountability, administrative controls can be effective. And then the last in your line of defense on controls is PPE. And what's really important to understand about PPE is PPE does not remove the hazard. PPE is a barrier between the human and the hazard.
It's a mitigator.
It's a mitigator. And if somebody's wearing their safety glasses on top of their head, it is not protecting their eyes. If somebody is wearing their hard hat askew, kind of cattywampus on their head, it's not protecting their head.
Or backwards.
Right. Or clipped to their belt. So PPE is the last line of defense because it does nothing to remove the hazard. It just is a barrier between you and the hazard.
And not always 100% preventable.
Yeah.
For injuries.
Right.
Personal protective equipment. For those not familiar with the term and who obviously can't see us because it's an audio podcast, can you just briefly describe cattywampus?
Cattywampus is a wonderful word that everybody should incorporate into their vocabulary. It's like crooked.
Askew. Okay.
Askew.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right.
Cattywampus.
I'm definitely using it a lot more now.
You learn something new every day.
Maybe we can have a little video blog of a proper hard hat and a cattywampus hard hat.
Gotcha.
Maybe for our PPE fashion show.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was about to say.
Are we doing a PPE fashion show?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a thing?
We're doing a PPE fashion show.
Yes, and Jackie just volunteered to do the cattywamper.
That's what I heard.
Wampus, cattywampus.
I think we are now divulging into the play hard section of the podcast.
We're getting pretty close.
It feels.
Yeah.
I think people who wear their hats cattywampus are cattywampers.
Well, before we wrap up this work hard section, I think to close us out here, I'd really just like to hear from each of you what message you would give to someone, if you just had a couple of seconds, just a few lines to tell them like why these things are important and why they matter.
So I take health and safety personal. So when I think of personal, I think of family. Your family who loves you very much, when you walk out the door and you walk into work with 10 toes and 10 fingers, they want you to come home the same way. And there are jobs that are out there where it can be worse than losing one of your toes or one of your fingers. So always think safety and safety first.
I would say that hazards are everywhere around us, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're somewhere else. They're out there. So no one's going to care about your health and safety like you care about your health and safety. So it's so important to be able to identify those hazards in whatever form they may come in, as well as how to control them both for yourself and for those around you.
And I would just wrap with, make sure your controls are effective and understood. Because if your employees think, well, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that, or that's difficult, I'm not going to do that. If they don't see the value of the control, or if you make implementing that control difficult, then they're less likely to buy in and actually, do it. So, by involving your team members in the hazard recognition, in the development of controls, because that's the thing, we just talked about the hierarchy of controls. There's more than one way to
skin
control.
A cat.
Yeah, more than one way to skin a catty wampus cat. So, just making sure that your controls are effective and are understood and are bought in. Because if folks are not following the controls, then they're not going home with 10 toes.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us in this episode of the 312 podcast. We will be heading out now, but you can still see myself and Jessica in the Play Hard section, which is coming up next. See you over there, everybody. Stay with us.
I'm going to get the beer helmet out of the trunk.
All right, let's do it.
You got one of those? Kept it from college?
Make sure you got the proper PPE, right?
If something's going to be cattywampus, it's going to be a beer helmet.
This episode of the 312 podcast is brought to you by Jackie Baxley and the webinar she will be doing later today. Yes, that webinar on the 29th of May at noon today. You will still be able to join it, even though you are hearing us at probably early this morning. But Jackie, tell us about what you will be talking about.
Yeah, our webinar is titled PFAS Compliance Updates, Changes in EPCRA and TSCA that may impact your organization. So join us either live today at noon Eastern Time, May the 29th, or catch our recording on the back end of that if you're listening to this Wednesday evening and darn it, you missed it. But this is a podcast that is going to be geared toward businesses and industry and the regulated community that might use chemicals or products in their processes or might import items into the United States that might have PFAS components. So join us to learn more.
Remember, folks, if PFAS is relevant to you in any way, you are going to want to attend this webinar. All right. Thanks, Jackie.
Yep.
Everybody, welcome to the Play Hard section. As our regular viewers know, Play Hard is a video section for the podcast. So here we are, myself, Tom Simmons, and joined by Jessica Eubanks. So, Jessica, what are you drinking? First of all, and most important question.
Most important thing is a pineapple, the pineapple cider is what I'm drinking. First time that I've had a beer from this place.
And how do you like it?
It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying the Hitman hops, which came highly recommended by Justin Evans. He was looking for a hazy IPA, and they certainly delivered on this. So we are at Magnetic South Brewing here in Greenville. As you know, if you've watched any of our other content here, it is right next to our Greenville, South Carolina office, which, in addition to being amazingly convenient, is also a delicious place to get beer. So I think you're coming back, right? I know I am.
I'm definitely going to come back.
Pineapple cider, is that what you typically get?
Anything with pineapple is usually good.
Okay. Are you a beer drinker generally? Or?
I'm not really a beer drinker, but I am a wine drinker.
Okay. What do you go for wine-wise?
Yes. I like red wine better, so typically Merlot is the best.
So we're here today to talk about your position here at HRP, your job. Can you tell us what that is and kind of briefly run us through that?
Yep. So I'm the Corporate Health and Safety Officer. Even though I am a corporate employee, I am housed in the Greenville, South Carolina office. I've probably been with HRP for almost 2 months now, maybe a little over 2 months. A few of the things that I'll be doing in my position is promoting health and safety corporate-wide. And some items of how I'm going to do that is it's going to include documentation, getting those implemented, making sure that they are updated just for the health and safety of our employees, especially while they're working out in the field.
Also implementing training regarding health and safety, and also identifying anything of or identifying opportunity for improvement that is involved in health and safety.
What's your past experience before you started working at HRP?
So I have 16 years of environmental health and safety, but this is my first time being in a consulting business.
Yeah.
So previously I've been in manufacturing, 9 years. I've been in automotive for 9 years and just doing heavy operating machinery for the other amount of years.
What were those jobs like?
I would say it's more stressful.
Yeah.
Yes. So health and safety is supposed to be everybody's responsibility, but typically within a general industry, it kind of all falls back on one person, which that fell back on me.
Yeah. So what brought you to HRP?
So for one, I've always been a fan of HRP Associates. Actually, HRP Associates was the first company I went through that signed off on my first certification, which was RECRA, and I'm not sure about DOT, but I definitely know that it was RECRA. So we've always used HRP Associates with all of our training. So again, definitely a fan of HRP. But one thing that kind of put me out there as far as looking for another job is the business that I was working for was shutting down this year. So it kind of put everybody in the bind to where we all had to find jobs. So that's why I started searching. And, you know, it's great being friends and networking, because one of my friends that I work with actually helped me get on with HRP.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Awesome. So what's the home life like? Pets, kids, what do you got?
Got 2 dogs, one Maltipoo and
So what now?
a Maltipoo.
Okay.
It's a mix. And then another one is a mix with Pit and something else I'm not sure of. So he might be a big dog, but he is also a big baby.
Gotcha.
Been married for the past, it'll be going 10 years as of November
Congratulations.
this year. Is it congratulations?
Is it?
It
I hope
is.
so.
It is. I'm following. It is 10 years this November. Got a total of 3 kids, 2 teenage boys, typical teenage boys, both in high school. Don't want to stay home with their mom anymore, and have one daughter. She is attending Lander University.
Any big summer vacation plans now that the weather's starting to warm up?
Yes, the weather is starting to warm up. So we are going to look into going to the beach. We haven't been to the beach in the past 2 years. We usually go to the beach every year, but for the past 2 years, I don't know, it's just kind of been a little bit busy with the business shutting down and changing jobs and all that.
Yeah.
So definitely looking into going to the beach this summer, and then definitely to the mountains this winter, fall time.
Do you live near Greenville?
I live 45 minutes from Greenville. I live in Lawrence County.
So what's the beach for you? Where do you head for that?
So you know where 385 turns in meets
from
with?
Connecticut.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't know nothing about that. So I am probably 3 hours away from Myrtle Beach.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So not as far as, you know, for the employees that live here in the Greenville area.
What's a good beach day for you? What does that consist of?
Do not judge when I say this. So first thing waking up is definitely doing a Starbucks coffee.
All right.
And going straight to the beach, and then maybe an hour after getting on the beach is start to pull out an adult beverage from the cooler.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, definitely staying at the beach or by the pool.
What do you think is the best beach drink? Because it's a different vibe. You need the right drink for the beach.
It's definitely a different vibe. I do love Merlot wine, but that is not the type of drink to be out on the beach. So some type of cocktail, maybe a Bahama Mama, something with coconut rum or something, or Malibu in it.
Yeah.
Definitely cocktail.
I like bringing a shandy there, or maybe like a spiked lemonade. I think that's good beach stuff.
Yep.
Because up in the Northeast where I'm from, we've got Dell's frozen lemonade that I get in Rhode Island. For me, that's like a must get. I mean, when it's a beach day, it's just not complete without it. It's built into the nostalgia of going there as a kid, you know.
Okay, definitely have to try it.
Yeah, you ever get up there for sure. So, how do you like HRP so far?
I love it.
Yeah,
I do. Yep, it's more. I would think that it's more laid back, but it's more of a teamwork than it would be in a manufacturing facility. But definitely loving it.
Have you gotten to go to all of the offices yet?
So I haven't been to all the offices, and I would love to go and meet everybody at all the offices by the end of the year. But if that doesn't happen, completely understand. But I've been to Derby, Connecticut, Farmington, Connecticut, and the Clifton Parks, New York office.
Which one would you say has the coolest office? Not necessarily the people, but just the location.
That's kind of hard because I would say the coolest people would have to be, and no offense to anybody, it would be the Farmington office, coolest people.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is, you know, I'm a motivator. I like to engage, interact in person, to learn things. And I don't know, I'm a sociable person.
Sure,
but they came to me. They introduced themselves to me instead of me going around to everybody's office door. They have a huge banana on the couch.
Yeah, Mr. Banana.
Yeah, I don't know the story behind that. I probably don't want to know. But,
it's completely wholesome.
But it seems like everybody has their own creativeness, as you can tell. And as far as, the looks of the office, I really like the New York office just because they had different quotes and different pictures surrounding the office areas, and that just kind of makes you feel a little bit more comfortable and at home because everybody's showing who they are, what their character is.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jessica, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And folks, if you're still watching out there, make sure to like and subscribe if you're listening to us still. Be sure to rate us 5 stars on whatever podcasting platform you favor. Jessica, thanks again. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
See you next time, folks.